In the world of Hollywood, movies get greenlit and redlit. They get remade and rebooted. But we are the ideal. I'm Sam Gasch, and you are listening to Ideal Remake. You are listening to Ideal Remake. We take movies that either have been, will be, or should be remade and talk about what the ideal version of that remake would be. Today we're enjoying fish, plankton, and sea greens, and protein from the sea, with Chris 04. Chris, is Logan's Run a movie that has been, will be, or should be remade?
It probably will be remade because everybody is trying to. They haven't managed to. But at some point, somebody's absolutely going to succeed. I'm sure it will be remade. And you know what? It should be remade. There's a lot of good like meat in that idea, and it should be properly exploited.
I agree with that. Logan's Run is actually, before you even brought it up, it's been at the top of my movies I want to talk about on the podcast list for some time. So I was really excited when you brought it up. I was like, yes, great, let's do this episode.
Well, I'm glad to be of service.
But you just saw this movie for the first time, right?
I did. Recently? I only just saw it like 2 weeks ago. It's one of those things that, it's very much like sort of infiltrated the pop culture consciousness in that I've seen like Logan's Run jokes in South Park, in all the Seth MacFarlane stuff, in Community, in The Simpsons, in so many things. It gets referenced in like little web videos and all sorts of stuff. Like everybody knows the story. Everybody knows what it means when you say, "Run, runner!" That makes sense, and it's just something that we all know, but I had never actually sat down to watch this little gem of a film.
It's a good old school nerd reference. Like, all the people who were writing on these shows, like, this is clearly the movie they grew up with.
Yeah, they all watched this when they were kids, and they probably also watched, like, the shortly run TV show that I didn't even know existed because, it never got to be long enough to have reruns.
Right. Well, what's interesting is that this movie came out like a year or two before Star Wars, and so everyone was
just a year.
Oh, just a year. So everyone was like, "Oh my God, Logan's Run is going to be this new amazing thing." And you look at it, and it's these big, impressive set pieces.
Oh yeah, so impressive! Wow, it's amazing. And then Star Wars came along and made it look terrible.
Just blew it away.
Yeah, it's really astounding. Like, I'm sure you've talked about it before on the show, but like how in 1977, like the quality of the effects and the makeup and like the props and set design, all the sort of graphical elements of Star Wars made everything produced in the 70s, everything, all of its contemporaries, like if you watch them, it's like, wait, this was made at the same time as Star Wars? I don't understand why this looks like garbage.
It's kind of the same thing with Jurassic Park. Like, we're still comparing CGI now to the CGI in Jurassic Park, and that movie's 20, 25 years old.
That is true. More. That is true and fair.
And because we recently talked about this in the Last Starfighter episode, because Last Starfighter introduced CGI.
Yeah.
And you compare that to the models, and it's just...
It's not
so bad.
A good comparison. It's really not.
I mean, I completely understand that you have to start somewhere, and the technology is super cool, but also...
Tron was a better use.
Yeah.
Tron was a much better use.
We're on your side. Like, we get it. You're doing computer stuff.
You're in the computer. It makes sense.
Yeah. It looks kind of like my computer looks. All right. So, Chris... for people listening at home, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, how did you get started doing like movie podcasts and other sorts of things? What is your media of choice?
My media of choice? Well, I mean, like my podcasting evolution like started in like audio dramas, and from there I met a couple of people. I met Scott Corelli and Zach Luna and Nick Jimenez. I think. Have they all been on your show, or has Nick not been on yet? Nick hasn't been on yet, but the whole dueling genre family of podcasts, I've guested on Spider-Man Minute and Back to the Future Minute and the Cornetto Minute podcasts. I've been on all of those that they've had so far, and I am one of the 4 main hosts of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Minute. It's one of those movies by minute podcasts where we watch a single minute of film and then talk about that single minute for like half an hour, something like that. It's you get a lot out of it. The format is quite entertaining.
Which turtle are you?
If I was one of the turtles, I guess.
I mean, there's 4 hosts, right? So each
there
one of you's
are
got to
4
be a turtle.
I don't know that we've necessarily assigned. I'm Raphael.
Okay. Big fan of the size?
No. Oh God, most of their weapons are not great. I don't like Psy. I'm also like a total martial arts nerd and aficionado, and I do have favorite weapons, but they're not Psy.
Interesting. That's unrelated, but something you should definitely talk about with Zach. Anyway.
Yeah.
So then when you sat down to watch this movie, because it's on Netflix now, it was just like,
yes.
Well, now's the time. I just need to finally watch this thing.
Yeah, I just got a nice shiny new TV. I sat down and I was going through the new stuff on Netflix, and I was like, oh, Logan's Run. Oh, I'll just watch it. And so I did. In between, like, changing diapers and dealing with crying babies.
You know what just occurred to me?
What?
Do you remember that Justin Timberlake movie that came out a little while, like...
Timeless? Or Timer,
whatever it was, where they had, like, the
yes.
clock on their hand?
Yeah.
It just occurs to me that's, like, a low-rent remake of Logan's Run.
That movie was not very good, but I did like the concept that they went with. It was very similar to Logan's Run in that it played with mortality, but I think they did something, frankly, more interesting, more timely. In that, when you get to a certain point in the post scarcity economics, and machines are doing all the work anyway. What's the currency? The only thing that you can't get more of is time. And, if you develop a system where time can be traded, I thought it was a cool idea. But again, it was not well done. And that's one of those things that the ideal remake of 2035 can talk about.
Well, that's the thing, because I kind of was going to be talking about that, because there are only so many jobs in this kind of domed post-apocalyptic, presumably, world.
Yeah.
But even the resources and the food supply seem to have run out. So I feel like they were implying that their world was slowly coming to an end because there was no more seafood. There was no more power supply.
It's hard to get from the film. And we should also mention that this is based on a novel by 2 guys from, was it the 50s or 60s?
Probably.
I'm not sure, but I haven't read it. I read the synopsis on Wikipedia actually years ago for something. I can't even remember why I read up on Logan's Run years ago without watching the movie. But, there's some differences in the book. In the book, it's like to 35. I think Logan is more malicious. There's some stuff about like sky gypsies and a mountain something. I don't know. There's like other weird stuff in there that was left out of them. Yeah. Some sort of a mountain something, sky gypsies, being older. Logan was more, it's a novel, so you can give him more internal narration and depth. There is a book. It is different. I haven't read it. I know I gave you a lot of grief for the Starship Troopers pod about not reading the book, so I'm sure there's somebody out. There's got to be someone out there that's read Logan's Run, the book, and will be bothered by this, but whatever.
Well, you know what? I look forward to their rebuttal.
It doesn't matter.
We're talking about Starship Troopers a little bit, but really the spiritual sibling of this episode is the episode I did on Soylent Green.
Yes, you were just talking about like how they're running out of supplies, and that does kind of get to like what's the reason for cutting them off at 30 anyway? Well, it's because you have a limited supply, and it's like if you kind of boil it down and like ask yourself why is that? It's like, well, maybe the biomass needs to get back into circulation, and
I would agree, except it looks like they're exploding the biomass.
Yeah, that's just the effect they went with. They also, like, when the city falls apart, like, it's like a screen overlay of Michael York and Jessica and what's her name? And flashes are on the screen. The effects are not good. I could imagine that in the script, like, the original death of people on Carousel is not an explosion. And it's just like, what can we do? Do this.
In my head, they start floating up, and I was really funny that like the version I was watching, the graphics were just good enough that we could see the string.
Oh God.
And so they start floating up, and I kind of like imagine them hitting the top and just like hitting this bug zapper, and they just get vaporized and just like their molecules get
like vaporized or disintegrated in some way. It is kind of interesting. Like some parts of this movie look like watching them with modern eyes just look so bad. But, like I just watched like on YouTube, like a little sort of making of like special bit about wire work, and like the contraption that they made to do Carousel is like 5 stories high, supports like 20 people. It's like this complex belt driven system that's all on the same wire. It's kind of amazing.
I mean, that is impressive.
Yeah, it's like a really cool like bit of stunt work and wire work that is unfortunately kind of overshadowed by these little overlays of explosions, and it's just kind of that doesn't hold up well, and it's kind of like I would love to have seen the original thing in action.
I mean, if there's one thing we all want, we want Cirque du Soleil to end in fireworks. No.
Yeah, but yeah, like there is definitely an element of like, and I think part of the reason they made this movie, because this was this MGM or Universal? I remember reading like the reason that like Logan's run got cleared was that Westworld did so well and Soylent Green did so well, and they're like, yeah, you know what? Let's just do another really downer of a sci-fi movie.
But to their credit, it would have worked. If Star Wars hadn't come out, this probably would have had another run and would have done even better than it did. It has a budget of $9 million, and in the United States grossed $25 million, which is technically a success.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it certainly had a long-lasting cultural impact.
Absolutely. So all told, and it's not like they didn't sink money into this. I mean, sets alone, you're looking at this thing, you're like, where did they film this? This place is enormous.
Some hotel or a mall or something. Like, I saw that, I'm like, that looks like the Gaylord. It really does.
Yeah. But to your point earlier, in terms of not the filmmaking, but the world of the movie, there aren't that many jobs. The jobs I can list on like one hand. It's Sandman, receptionist, doctor, and orgy worker.
I don't know if anybody there was getting paid.
I mean, it depends how you define payment. Is there money in this world?
Are the Sandmen paid? I suppose they're paid in terms of having a nicer apartment.
Honestly, that might be it. I mean, the movie's PG. There's a lot of nakedness for a PG movie.
Well,
I know.
But that's, that was PG and R were your only choices. I think there was a lot of wiggle room between PG and R back then.
Right. This is a pre-Indiana Jones PG-13
in the Last
world.
Crusade, yeah.
But like, I didn't see anyone paying anything. They didn't talk about credits. It was literally just, we're just having our life.
Yeah, but a part of that might be the price is simply that you're dead at 30.
But that's overall. So theoretically, why do a job? Why have a job? Why not just have a constant, I guess, 17-year bacchanal?
I mean, it seems like most people don't. I mean, they're just kind of wandering around. And, this all of the sort of questions that this movie raises, all of the sort of like, wait, why is that? What? That doesn't make any sense. There's so much like opportunity there for somebody to really flesh it out and sort of fill the world with more stuff. Like I am imagining like a more tightly wound production these days that is able to just jam so much into the world there where, it's like worth watching again just to be like, so what are they doing in the arcade? What's going on in the background there? Oh, that's what they're doing. that's not a bad existence.
Well, it's your classic dystopia masquerading as a utopia movie.
Yeah.
We get to meet this world and we kind of get to discover what happened, but I actually think it's more interesting if we kind of take it, and it was designed to be a utopia. It was designed to be this kind of amazing, perfect world, but the architects of the world have since died, and everything's kind of moved on and past it to the point where we've forgotten the original designs. It's just, these are the steps we go through.
Yeah, nobody that was educated enough or capable enough or knew enough about, well, for one thing, nobody knows about the outside world. Nobody who knows why they built the city in the first place still exists. And apparently they didn't leave any sort of instructions behind for the next generations. They made like this absurd world with this sort of very sort of religious system that everyone just believes, and there doesn't appear to be any, there's no person who understands why things are the way they are, and ultimately you end up with the absurd finale where the computer breaks?
Well, that's even worse. The computer doesn't even know about the outside world. The computer is saying what is crap.
Does not compute.
No, what is where are they trying to get to? Sanctuary.
Sanctuary.
They're trying to get to Sanctuary, and even
Sanctuary.
And the computer doesn't know that it's not real. I feel like we're kind of dealing with like a Snowpiercer type world where something terrible must have happened, where the presumption is no one will ever be able to go outside.
Yeah, and there's like a certain institutional momentum there in this world where things just keep going, and nobody knows that things are going to the point where they're not going to be able to go anymore. Like, I can definitely imagine, like, considering the way, the scene in the middle of the movie with the robot box. I can imagine, like, in a couple of years, they're going to run into a situation where it's like, hey, the magic food machine doesn't put out food anymore. What? Where's our food?
Right? I mean, honestly, yeah. The robot box is kind of interesting in the sense that, like, there was the world of the people within the dome, but then there's also the people who were supplying him, because he says it was the sea greens and fish and plankton and protein from the sea. And then they stopped coming.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a purpose, so he kept freezing these people trying to escape. And I think that means that there was the inside world and the outside world, and the people on the outside died. Like, they're gone.
It could be that people died. Also, it could be that there was an automatic system, like, a series of drones and sort of, robotic fishing vessels, robotic food processing, all sorts of robotics that eventually, like, whatever their sort of redundant, whatever their repair systems or self-repair systems or whatever it was they put in place, eventually ultimately failed, and they didn't have a robust enough system and a system with enough redundancy to repair itself.
Well, even if it was robots and things like Box himself says that he's a blending of technology and man. So even if they had
more than both,
exactly, weird man-pewters going around, or man-bots masquerading as man-pewters, then they may have shut down. I mean, they say it's the 23rd century, but there's no reason for us to expect that that's true. For all we know, they just cycle around and just keep doing the 23rd century over and over again.
Well, I think that, that's supposed to actually be the year, because the little bit that we get at the little prologue, like, man, I miss those movies where there's a little bit of text at the beginning to say the world in blah 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 blah. That's so much fun, and there need to be more of those. But yeah, that bit at the end is only for the audience. I don't think it's a matter of like they in the world think that it's the 23rd century and that they've been thinking that for like 1,000 years.
I mean, they could.
I don't think they even have a concept of centuries or of time. They probably have no history.
I mean, their only concept of time is a personal one. Your time is entirely related to the color that you are.
Yep. You're 30 years and that's it.
Yep. And like Logan, his entire argument was like, yeah, I was a Sandman because that was my job. But now it's happening to me.
Yeah, oh, God.
It's not good.
It is not good. It's so... Well, a part of that could be, we don't know how it was written. We don't know how things were interpreted. It could have been intended to be more complex than it is, in that I can imagine this world, where there's so few professions, where people seem to have basic literacy, but they don't know things. They have no sense of history. They don't know why they're in the city. They probably don't know much about, they don't know about the systems that run their lives. I can imagine that effectively these are all a bunch of semi-literate, uneducated kids who just grow up and they sort of, they're religious zealots who are like, carousel! And then they get on the carousel and die. And no one knows anything. There's no deeper knowledge in anything. So when you have a situation where Logan is like, well, it's different now because it's me, that seems childish and stupid. I mean, it is. But a part of the reason that it's so childish and stupid is this guy's never read a book in his life. He's never, he has no concept of, characters of people with sort of a deeper understanding. He does not have a rich and complex emotional inner life because no one does. Because no one's read anything. No one knows.
Well, there's no formal education system. Basically, from the time you're born, presumably until you're 13, it's Lord of the Flies out there. And literally just you live as a savage, and then all of a sudden you come of age and they bring you in like you can have sex now. Join society.
I think that Cathedral, I think that space for the juvenile delinquents, that's just for kids who are dangerous. I imagine there is a separate space for kids.
You think that little girl that Jessica bonds with is dangerous?
According to this stupid society, yes. She can't stop stealing things from people who don't own anything. I don't know.
Honestly, like, if there's a character I don't think I recast, I think I didn't recast any of the kids, because part of me is like, well, if...
Oh, I did. I don't know. The thing is, like, in this movie, like, there's
so few characters.
There's so few characters, and so many of the set pieces are frankly stupid and not worth repeating. But and there's but again, it's like sort of the meat of the idea that we want to keep. But like that idea of there being a space for the misfits, for the kids that don't fit in, for the sociopaths, the people who there's something just wrong and they're dangerous. I could imagine that there is that space.
Yeah, but again, it's just until they're 13, because Logan tells that kid, as soon as you become a yellow or a green or whatever, you're gonna get pulled into the main society.
No, he's saying they're gonna kill you.
Right, he's saying the other kids would kill you, and he would have to then leave and join main society.
Or die. It's either or.
Get torn apart by the other kids, or become just a part of regular society. So even if you are a sociopath...
But that's only because you're in the kid gang. I think the other kids who are just kids, being kids... are not, because there's only 20 or something kids there in Cathedral. Sure. And that can't be all of them. There's obviously hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of children. And I imagine that I wish we could have, there should have been included in the arcade, or the wider shots. It's understandable that they wouldn't be at well, no, it's not understandable that they wouldn't be at Carousel. They would be at Carousel. It'd be like, hey, 5-year-old, let's go watch people explode.
And I'm pretty sure that literally until you're 13, just that's the area you live in. And again, I'm very happy to be wrong. But I think it's literally just they had a separate dome for kids, and then they shipped them over.
There is a lot to this film that I think is frankly poorly thought out. So it is entirely possible that in this society, as they presented it, all the little children are in Murder Town.
It is appropriate that you're drinking a beer called Youngling.
It's pronounced Yingling, but yes, Younglings. I killed them all. I killed the Yinglings!
Soylent beer. So, in terms of what we would need, what I think is interesting about this movie, and what I think is that it is... I do think I want to stick with the concept of a fallen society, and a society that basically had everything set up, but just time destroys everything, and everything's kind of started to crumble around them, but they have no concept of how to fix that.
Yeah. I don't want it to be too ruined. I want it to be the sort of thing that the audience can recognize, but that the characters themselves don't know until the end.
Oh, I agree. I think they don't realize what it is until they start getting outside the central dome. There could be things maintaining the central dome, but everything outside, the stuff that's been exposed to the elements, let's say, the more exposed it is, the faster it's broken down, and the stuff on the inner core is what's still left. Yeah. So as Logan and Jessica get further and further outside, they're able to slowly start seeing these things breaking down and disintegrating. The robot box could literally, an arm could be missing.
Yeah. Well, I frankly, I kind of struggled with Box, and like I couldn't, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe we could just make it, blah, 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 blah. What's her name? She plays all the robot voices. Black Widow. Ah.
You want to make it Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, sure, why not? But on the other hand, I kind of just don't want it to be a thing. It was really hilarious. I watched the trailer for Logan's Run the other day, and like, you know, it's one of those old school 70s trailer where the announcing voice is like, "Enter a world beyond imagination." And then like there's a 30-second part of a 3-minute trailer where he's talking about Box, and I'm like, Box is in the movie for less than 5 minutes. Box doesn't matter. Like,
this is also at a time when it was the set pieces that sold the movie. The Bride of Frankenstein, it's about this whole thing, but honestly, it was the little people in the jars that were the big thing at the time that no one had any idea how they did. So
no, Bride of Frankenstein was in the 30s, wasn't it?
Whatever.
And it's also like a 30-minute movie.
What do you want from me? I watched it when I was in high school. But those sorts of things, like the big impressive pieces. So honestly, Carousel and Box, like watching
that
people
part was
fly.
I can get that. I can understand the market in which this was released.
Yeah, but I liked Box. He was crazy. And honestly, the idea of a robot that's just been going through the system so long that it goes nuts, I liked that. And it's kind of, I mean, WALL-E doesn't do this, but I kind of think of Box and the big motherboard computer that did not compute as like a kind of like aspects of the ship's wheel in.
Absolutely. That is a very similar concept. In fact, the sort of the essay that I saw like a couple days ago that was talking about this, where they equated that Justin Timberlake movie with Logan's Run, they actually brought up WALL-E as like sort of having owing some roots to Logan's Run. Like Logan's Run has had a huge effect on sci-fi writers for the last couple generations, and
I assume will for some time to come.
Yeah,
and I rephrase. The computer that does not compute and breaks is the ship's wheel, and then Box is Mo. Mo. The little if you're listening and you don't know who Mo is, he's the little cleaning robot that has to get rid of all the dirt. That's who Box is, and that's why he's endearing.
Fish, plankton. Proteins from the sea.
It's such a good line. I love it so much.
My birds!
It was also pointed out to me that like when Logan and Jessica go in there, like, well, we're wearing wet clothes, time to be naked and barely cover ourselves with fur.
They take them. Okay, we need to take these off before they freeze on us. She takes off everything. He only takes off his shirt.
Well,
and also
he may have taken off his pants. We just didn't see it because
he still had the pants on.
Did he really?
He still had the pants on. And then after like 3 minutes of talking to Box, like somewhere in there, before they realize that he's crazy, they're like, "Oh, hey, let's take a second and put our frozen clothes back on."
They've had a minute to warm up. But what was pointed out to me is that he puts his weird Sandman sweater back on, and it's missing the white stripe that like identified him as Sandman.
That part was missing.
Or
he put it on inside out.
But the cut in the shoulder or something was on the correct side still.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, sometimes the who is it? The script editor or the person who pays attention and looks for continuity.
Yeah.
That person didn't do their job, or maybe that job just didn't exist in 1976.
Distinctly possible. But I mean, if we're talking about Logan and Jessica, honestly, they're kind of like on rails, going through the things that I would expect of them. But the person that I find really fascinating is the character of Francis.
Yes.
Because Francis accidentally becomes free.
and he just can't accept it.
He cannot handle it.
Oh, it's so sad. The tragedy of Francis.
I mean, honestly, if we were making this today, in my mind, Francis is totally in love with Logan.
That's possible, yeah. And that could be a part of, like, why he's so mad and why he's so destructive and why he's like, you're running off with her? She's so boring and basic. Ah!
I was everything to you. We were good friends.
That was a thing that when I saw it the first time, and that little bit where he's in his room and where Logan's in his room and he uses the little remote control.
He's
and
playing
it pulls
chat
up,
roulette.
He's playing. Yeah, he's playing chat
sex
roulette,
roulette.
or Tinder.
Yes,
He's pulling up analog Tinder, and the first one to pop up is that guy. And he just kind of like, he looks, he's like, no. And then he goes on to the next one and he gets Jessica, that he actually wants. At first, and later he asked her, like, do you like girls? And, do you like women? And she's like, no. But, and at first I was like, oh, way to go, you movie. Good job being a little more progressive for 1976. That's pretty impressive. And then I realized, after the movie, that it is entirely possible that they put that in there to ook out the audience watching in 76 to say, this society's so screwed up, guys. Oh, can you believe it? I watched it now and thought, oh, this is pretty progressive for this time. Way to go, movie. But then putting myself in the mind of an audience member in 76, I think it's entirely possible that they threw that element in there, the sort of casual homosexuality, to sort of say, look at how messed up these people are.
I mean, I didn't think about it that way until you're mentioning it just now, but you're probably exactly right. Because I was going to compliment it for their proto-Tinder.
And it is kind of easy to do, but when you think about it in the context, it's like, they probably weren't. Yeah. Especially when you consider the conversations that they have later about beloved husband, beloved wife, beloved father, beloved mother. It's like, let's, get back to our traditional family roles and values.
And they choose to stay together forever and raise children? Wow, we should really do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, oh, they weren't being progressive.
No.
They wanted that was to add to the horror of this dystopian society.
Man, poor Jessica. You think she's gonna have so much agency, and then she just doesn't.
For 76, she'll have more in ours.
Yes, of course. I mean, basically the most agency Jessica has is...
She gets to say no.
You're right. It's to say no, but I was going to say is off screen. That's it. She puts herself in the roulette thing. She was like, I wanted a diversion. I wanted something to do. A friend of mine died today.
Sex is life affirming. I want to get out there and, just try and forget it with some orgasms. And the first person to pull me up is one of the murder bots. All right, great. Oh.
Yeah, all right. Well, I was feeling it, but now I'm not.
Super not. Oh.
The one thing I will give the movie is that they do say it's always her choice.
Yeah. And they kind of make a point of it. Like Logan is very pushy.
Yes.
But he's very pushy, but also, like, when she says no, like, he kind of, well, I don't know. It is a different society.
It is, and when she leaves, he goes and has that foursome with Francis and the two ladies.
Francis and the two floozies, yes.
And
Francis and his floozies.
Yeah, their second album isn't as good as their first album.
That is a good band name. I like it. Francis and the floozies. Which one of you is Francis? None of us. It's the band.
But then, like, can we talk about, like, the secret society of people that are seeking out sanctuary? They're like, we should kill you. We're gonna kill you. Oh, wait, now you're in front of us.
Yeah.
Go on through.
They're because there are opportunities there to flesh it out and sort of add more to the world, but
I like the steam spears.
The way that the movie presents it, it just, again, I guess, they're all uneducated children, and it's sort of like, what are they, if you think about people who have the sort of equivalent education of elementary school, but are just living their lives.
Yeah.
What are they going to do? How complex can their plots be? How complex can their personal narratives be?
So for a remake, then, what do you think is the core essence of this movie? If you had to boil Logan's run down to the core thesis, what would you say it is?
Oh, that's a hard question that I hadn't thought about. The core thesis, I mean, like the core element that we want to keep is that, obviously that the trick about everybody has to die at 30. It certainly has elements there that allow us to talk about, for example, climate change and income inequality and sort of like limited resources. There's ways to say things that matter now.
There's also something to be said about killing people at 30 because only young people have a perceived value to society.
Ageism, yes. The obvious bit is ageism. Yeah, that is something to say about it. Which is why, for old man, the old man needs to be more than a crazy cat man.
I love that guy. He's my favorite character in the whole movie.
It was kind of fun. It was kind of fun, but in order to say more about ageism, it can't be Logan being like, "This is what old looks like."
Yeah, and also like, but on that same side, like that old guy has only known two other people in his entire life. His parents, they passed away, and now the only person he's had to talk to is his cats. So we can either give them we can actually give them a sanctuary, but I find it more compelling if there is no sanctuary. They happen to find this crazy old man who's been living by himself because there is nothing else out there. Mm-hmm. I think it's more interesting if he's crazy because it means that they have to fix society themselves instead of having to then rely on these people who've actually got it all figured out.
Well, and another thing that they need to sort of that they need to realize is like, it's kind of interesting that they say like, oh, there's no sanctuary, but they get outside, and as soon as they get into the warm sun, they are in a paradise. Like, the environment that they're in is perfectly healthy. There's no radioactivity. There's no fallout. Like, the plant life is abundant and doing great. There's clean water that they're swimming and drinking in. There needed to be some point where, they realize, I imagine the show did something stupid and weird where they're still looking for sanctuary. In fact, I think that's what I saw in the trailers that I watched.
They turned left instead of right?
Yeah, I imagine that sort of after the movie, after everybody has the moment where they're like, oh, wow, look at this old guy, where people realize the outside is pretty good. The outside is itself sanctuary. We were trapped in a system that was crumbling while it was built in a time when the outside was death. But over time, the outside repaired itself and the inside crumbled.
So again, WALL-E.
Yeah.
But honestly, yeah, I agree. And I think that's kind of what it needs to be. But I think the inside needs to crumble in such a way that you don't notice that it's crumbling until you leave.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the allegory of the cave, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that they could do once they got back in the cave, because it is literally the allegory of the cave, no one believed them until they destroyed the cave and brought everyone outside.
Oh, man, I didn't realize we were in a prison.
Basically, yeah. That said, I kind of like the way society is structured in the sense that, like, it's so, like, this weird dystopia of the greens are only good for this, the yellows are only good for this, the reds are only good for this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, like, the way society works. I mean, we might want to give people other jobs, but if we then pull from, like, a Soylent Green where there aren't jobs to be had, people are just sleeping on the stairs outside.
And because most of it is automated. But also, I have to imagine that in this sort of perfectly controlled system where one is born and one must die, that there isn't actually a surplus population. They're probably the way that the system is set up to run, where, you're born, go and die at 30. There's probably, they have strict population control, and they probably have a room available for every person. That's like, true. Nobody has to sleep out in the streets or, the arcade or on the steps. Nobody's actually alone. Like, the system has to sort of keep working in such a way that the problems can't be noticed. And so I can't imagine that the decay that's involved is, like, homelessness.
That's true. I agree with that. But I think it would be interesting if it's a planned society, and let's say it's planned for 5,000 people, but now there's only 4,500. Soon there will only be 4,000. And there's been this, they've noticed that the numbers in society are slowly diminishing. And they don't know why.
Oh, like a way that it could work is like, oh, when that opening scene when they're at the nursery is like, oh yeah, if only 5 out of the 7 made it this time.
Yeah.
It used to be that 7 out of 7 always made it, or something like that, where they talk about how the infant mortality rate is going up. Like there's something wrong with the clones that are being produced. The genetic material is decaying, which actually is a thing.
It absolutely is. I mean, that's what's wrong with the royal family.
Yeah, if you don't have enough genetic diversity in your system, eventually it gets to a point where it decays. And so, yeah, that could be a way to do it. And it would be a good way to sort of introduce it right at the very beginning with Logan, like, looking in on the babies. And it's like, oh, yeah, there he is. There's, I think that's Logan 6. And, I think that's going to be me. And it's like, and you see, like, a number of empty beds. And, like, Francis can be like, oh, it's a real shame that we lost half the crop this time.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
I mean, they're not clones. They talk about the seed mother.
Well, no, but it's not, but they don't carry them because there's no human mothering. I don't think it's a matter of, I think the seed mother thing, I think that's like, she's an egg donor.
That's probably true.
I think that they're birthed in like tubes.
What happens is, all sorts of sex all the time, and then, someone's been impregnated, yoink! Take it out, put it in a pod.
Donate it to the nursery bank.
Take instead of being an egg donor, you are a zygote donor.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Okay. All right, I like that. So then, how would you redo Carousel? Are we going to do a big bug zapper in the sky, or do you want to do it more like The Giver?
Well, I haven't seen The Giver or read that book, so I'm not sure. But I mean, like the big sort of set piece of everyone watching it like it's, the Colosseum in ancient Rome, that kind of makes sense. And it gives it an opportunity to sort of hearken to, like, those giant televangelist megachurches where you have sort of the situation where the whole society gets to see and be sort of indoctrinated and become a part of and make a religious experience out of Carousel.
Absolutely.
So that has to be a part of it.
And I like that they say they made it to Carousel.
Yeah.
And there's so much shame in not making it to Carousel that, like, but in that case, why would people run?
Just the sort of the basic instinct of self-preservation and the sort of you can't get it out of the lizard brain that, like, oh, I think I'm gonna die. They may not necessarily have a complex understanding or concept of death because nobody is around to have their grandparents die or anything like that. Nobody has to go to funerals really, but there could be the understanding of, like, Carousel is a crapshoot. You either renew or you don't. And anybody who sits and thinks about it for a minute is like, hey, wait a second. Have you ever seen anybody renew? Also, what the hell does it mean to ever actually renew? What would that even look like if it happened? And so it becomes a fear of the unknown. And it's like, the unknown is, I know people go on to Carousel and either they renew or we never see them again. I'm going to run away from that.
What I would like to do, and something I would like to add, is because I think that they should be legitimately curious as to why people would run. I mean, if you're one of the hallmarks of religion is that they try to convert the unbelievers.
Yeah.
Unbelievers. That's definitely the word I wanted.
That's a good one.
And
I like it.
I actually think it'd be interesting if, on top of everything else, perhaps Logan or perhaps Francis is such a zealot of this religion that he's honestly
eager.
Yeah, well, he's honestly investigating. Why would people do this? Why would they run? And part of his, it could even be part of his sadism is, instead of just killing people instantly, it's like, don't you want, like, torturing them, don't you want to renew?
Why don't you want Carousel? I'm going to give you a chance.
Yeah.
Don't you, Carousel's right there. You can go. I'll take you.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Honestly, yeah.
And so, yeah, whatever sort of the, whatever the new set piece is for Carousel, it has to be something that everyone can watch and be a part of. And it also has to sort of be, there has to be something about it that maybe doesn't scare people off, something that sort of entices them, maybe something tempting about it. I don't know.
It has to be something fun, something that you don't honestly get to do. Like, I think that's why they did Flight, because, Flight is something everyone wants to do.
A flying dream, there is that.
But, I mean, a giant slingshot into a pool of piranhas isn't necessarily what we want.
No,
but it
not
is
a giant slingshot into.
So I'm gonna write that down because that's what we're going with.
There is like sort of like that element of like, well, maybe it can just be the excessive machine from Barbarella, but they live in an orgy town anyway, so.
But I mean, they don't need it. They can just go to the orgy shop down in the middle of the road. But what's something an ideal, something that people would always want to do that they would literally be willing to die in order to do it? And flight is honestly a good one.
So flight, and also maybe sort of an element of like, oh, look, the outside, like maybe if the dome opens in a way and like, they do it at night and you see the stars or something. Maybe something about that.
That's kind of what they did in Soylent Green. In Soylent Green, they go sit in a room and they're given drugs that kills them, and while they're dying, they're surrounded by footage of the beautiful of the world the way it was instead of the world the way that it is. And because and that would be idealizing the outside world, which I don't think they want to do.
They wouldn't. Yeah, they don't want to do that because then you have more people saying, "Well, I want to go outside."
Exactly. And so I honestly think it just needs to be more exhibition and more, hey, everybody, look at me. I get
look
to
what
show,
I can do.
Yeah, I get to show off to all of my friends. Like I literally think it could be like they do let's say it's honestly
like a gymnastics routine.
Like something where like
he got a 10.
Yeah,
that's the highest score I've ever seen on Carousel.
Yeah, basically that's the thing. It's some game that you play, but you die playing it.
Instagram. Will you get enough likes to renew?
Basic or that.
Will you get enough likes? Will you get enough likes to renew? There you go. That'll do it. And it's like, has anybody ever gotten enough likes to renew? No? Oh.
Something like that. I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, you're appealing to a mass audience, so then they vote at the end, and it's basically. I mean, the other thing is, I don't necessarily think it needs to be a competition because theoretically, you do this, you renew.
Yeah, anybody can renew. We can all renew if we do it. Everyone has hope of renewal, and renewal isn't dependent upon other people losing. Right,
but I think what they were saying is, you go through Carousel, you renew. Period. The end. But I do think it'd be fun to have a high scoreboard of the best renewers, who got the perfect 10, who impressed the Russian judges the most.
Well, I mean, like that's the thing is like in the movie, it's not clear at all. It's made clear that no one has renewed and nobody's ever seen anyone get renewed. So there's no sort of concept of what would it look like if someone was renewed because they all just explode. I'm like, well, what are you looking for in renewal, you guys?
I assume that's what they thought renewal was, and then you just become one of the babies that is reborn. And
maybe.
As an element of the fact that more infants are dying, less people are renewing.
And that gives them the sort of logic that is sort of like an internally consistent logic that helps them maintain the illusion that things are fine.
And that's why people like Logan and Francis are so desperate to keep people in the system because it's these people who are trying to escape.
Oh yeah, they're ruining Carousel for everyone.
That's right.
They're preventing future generations from being born. It's not just that you guys don't get to renew, you poor suckers. It's, hey, we need more people to be born, and if you run away, then they can't be born.
Exactly. That's what I think would be interesting.
So it's not just like sort of defending the religious dogma of the system of you have to go to Carousel. It's also like if you run away, then we don't get more babies.
Yeah. So it's absolutely societal self-preservation.
Yeah, that helps.
And to that point, that's a reason why the computer would then send Logan out to go find Sanctuary, so they can bring all these people back and put them through Carousel
back into the system, so that they renew the biomass.
Exactly. That I think we can play with.
Yeah, that's a little better. It's like not only do you need to find Sanctuary, you need to find Sanctuary so that we can get them back into rotation.
Good. Okay. So then the people who are trying to get the secret society, Jessica and her people.
Yeah, her friends.
Yes. Those I think would be people who believe in something else. They have a different religion. They believe that Carousel is permanent death and true life is outside.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing is you can definitely play with that because they're all trapped inside. It's like, and you have a certain, in addition to the the sort of instinct for self-preservation, the instinct for fear. There's also the instinct of wanting to know. If you're inside a thing, it's like, well, what's outside the thing? And so there will be a certain number of people who just on a deep, primal, instinctual level will be like, I'm inside a thing and I have to get out. What's outside? There has to be something better outside.
Did you ever read the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books?
I read like the first one and then a bit of the I've been meaning to read more of them, but
I enjoy the series, and honestly the third one is my least favorite one, but there's an element in the third one where there is this force that's going around and trying to destroy everything in the universe. And I think they're called the Crickets or something. And they basically come from a planet that was constantly overcast. So there was constantly just a pale yellow sky. So there was no sky for them to look at. No clouds, no stars, no anything. It was always the same.
Very bitter.
And until finally one day, some alien crash landed on their planet. And they figured out, they reworked the ship and figured out how to get into space. And all of a sudden they get past their atmosphere and they see this universe out there. Yeah. And they're like, no, thank you. Let's get rid of that. And and so they take a look at those are the two different ways. There are the people who feel trapped within a thing and want to get out, but then there are people who
who think that it's great to be in the thing. I'm safe and secure inside my happy bubble.
There is no thing. This is all there is. And to acknowledge that there is more than that would blasphemy.
Destroy our world. Yeah, it's blasphemous. It goes against the the great mother bot or whatever it is that runs the system.
Yes, all hail the supreme leader.
Except there is no leader.
So then with that, so I think that's a good sense of what we want for the society. And honestly, that kind of gives us a sense of why they would be trying to escape. Logan is on a spy mission, let's say, and can't tell anybody because to tell people would be an acknowledgement that the system is breaking. And that's why he can't tell anybody. Instead of just, hey, Francis, the computer gave me this assignment.
He can't pull Francis into it because in order to get Logan into the mission, the computer has to acknowledge, this is a problem.
Exactly. And that's why it trusts him because he'll be able to do it and not tell anybody.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so heartbreaking when Francis makes it out, because Francis knows that now he can't renew. He can't go to Carousel because he's going to die outside the system. And just making Francis even more tragic and heartbreaking.
Oh man, I hope my casting for Francis is enough. Jeez.
I'm sure we'll be fine. Mine's not either. It's going to be great.
Yeah, this is harder. When you're doing it, it's fun to tease you on Facebook and be like, no, you should have done it this way or that way. But then when you're actually talking about it, I'm just like, oh man, this is hard.
Yeah. And I keep trying to avoid
there's a reason most remakes are bad.
I mean, kind of. We have become what we hate.
Oh, too much mirth.
But okay, so then I kind of think we get a sense of the society and trying to break out and what we see as we're escaping. And I think we kind of have a sense of what we find when we get to the outside world in terms of, well, that's broken too.
Yeah.
And we just need to fix it ourselves.
Yeah, I think that largely sort of the set pieces, that the sort of action beats that took place can still happen. And I think so. Largely the sort of order that was there is good. It will just be done better.
Yeah, I just think we need to give them more reason. I just think we need to give the world more structure.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, I think we're ready to break into casting.
Ooh, yay!
How you feeling? You feeling ready? You feel excited?
I'm feeling pretty good.
All right. Let's start with Logan then.
Okay. So yeah, Logan, in the original, Michael York, man, what a pretty man. Oh. I must say, this movie is not his best work. The Three Musketeers are great. If you've seen those 70s Three Musketeer movies, they're so good.
A long time ago.
He's pretty good in them. But watching this movie kind of made me think maybe he's not a very good actor.
I don't think it's necessarily that he's a good actor or bad actor. I think it's that he did not believe in this script because he's a stage actor and he's like, what am I doing? Yeah. What is this mess?
This is nonsense. And also the script is It needed some punching up, so to speak.
Here's the equivalent. Have you seen the trailers for the Detective Pikachu?
Yes.
Okay, so the guy who's doing the voiceover at the beginning, who's like, "You are entering a world that is full of Pokemon." And just you can hear that voiceover narrator just dying a little bit inside when he has to say the word Pokemon. That's Michael York.
I went to Juilliard for this.
Basically, yeah.
Oh man. So I guess I had I have two for Logan.
Okay, let's hear 'em.
One kind of felt I don't know, it felt a little repetitive, like he's done this before, and I kind of don't like. He probably shouldn't do it. John Boyega, he's like 26.
Yeah.
But him doing this feels kind of like, oh look, it's the Stormtrooper becoming good. So I did a little more poking around, a little more digging, and I found out that Mr. Dev Patel is only like 29. He's a lot younger than I thought. So I think Dev Patel would be a good choice for Logan.
I actually like both those options, and I think they both kind of fit the theme and kind of fit the world.
Yeah.
The person that I have, because again, Michael York is a big stage actor, and we need someone who kind of has their background in theater. So I went with an actress named Emmy Raver Lampman.
I don't know that one at all.
Have you seen Umbrella Academy?
Oh, I have.
She is the famous actress sister. She's
Okay.
the one that is not Ellen Page.
Okay.
And
I
she can
heard
do
a rumor.
action. She can carry herself with confidence, and then can also be vulnerable. And she also comes from the stage background because she was in Hamilton. And so I think that it's interesting, and if we add that extra element of it's a very misogynistic, hey, women can't do stuff. So I thought it'd be fun to gender swap Logan. Especially because Logan can be a woman's name too.
Well, I did, yeah, I mean, I kept the Sandman men because, well, in this sort of simple system, nobody's got complex training, nobody's, like, they don't have, like, a complex understanding of how to fight. Like, it's really, well, I don't know. She works, she's good. I like the Umbrella Academy, I like what she did there, and it can work. And
well,
they do
I
have
mean,
guns.
they don't. I think they can have a version of fighting because I mean, one of the things that these people do is they maintain their sexiness so that they can be more desirable when they're in the sex
very physically
roulette.
fit. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the way that any of the Sandmen can maintain their physical fitness is by fight training.
Oh, and that was a thing that I kind of wanted to do. Like, I noticed in the movie that that Logan is a terrible shot. He never hits any of the runners. Well, the one runner that he chases, he doesn't hit him, and he doesn't hit anybody until I mean, he hits Box, but that's easy. But then he hits some of the other Sandmen, like while they're fighting. And I kind of got it in my head that a way to sort of help establish that Logan is more introspective, a little more curious, and perhaps open to the differences in the world and not accepting the sort of way the system is set up, is that he's a Sandman who hasn't killed anyone. Like, he's been involved in all the chases, and he always says the right things, and he helps Francis do what Francis does, but he can never take the killing shot.
Well, it also could be that Logan very much believes in the system, and he believes that if he kills them, they cannot be renewed.
Yeah.
And so Logan is able to capture and return them to Carousel every single time,
That's
as
possible.
opposed to Francis, who sacrifices them.
That's possible. That's a good way to do it, too. And that gives you more opportunities to do more things. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's good.
All right, cool.
Dev Patel, or the long name I didn't write down.
Emmy Raver Lampman. Well, let's see. Let's come up with our idea for all three, because I think that little triangle of people is
It's central. That's the main cast.
I agree. So let's talk about Jessica.
Okay.
My Jessica, I have an actress who was in The Walking Dead and Another Life. Her name is Elizabeth Ludlow.
Who was she in The Walking Dead?
I'm going to look up that name now. The reason why I went with Elizabeth Ludlow is because she's a little bit more competent seeming than the actress who originally played Jessica, who was just kind of like standing on the side.
A waif.
She's going to be playing a character named Griffin in Godzilla King of Monsters.
Okay.
She is in The Walking Dead. Where is it?
I think I have an idea who it is.
She is Arat. A-R-A-T. Arat.
No, I don't know that character. I have not watched The Walking Dead since before they decided to kill Glenn, and I found out that they'd killed Glenn, and I was just like, you know what, this is just misery, so I stopped.
full disclosure, I've never watched The Walking Dead. Not my genre.
Eh.
I was just looking for more competent actresses, and so this is the actress that I found. Mm-hmm. She is Date in the movie Mr. Right. Here's the thing about the movie. Oh, that's a different movie than I thought it was. What's the one with Anna Kendrick and Sam Rockwell?
Oh, that's where he's a hitman.
Yeah.
Shoot. I don't
It's
remember.
not a good movie, but I think that movie deserves more credit than it got.
It was fun.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, but I can understand why it passed completely under the radar.
Absolutely. She's also in Satisfaction and Powers and Hindsight. She's a good working actress. Mm-hmm. But tell me who you have for Jessica.
Okay, so with this one, I kind of, went a little overboard. I have sort of two that are like sort of one for ones. They're exactly the same as, the original casting. And that would be like Anya Taylor-Joy or Haley Steinfeld. They're in their early 20s, little waifish white women. But I thought that maybe a little better, somebody that's that could maybe bring a little, and not that neither of those are good actresses, they are, but I think somebody a little closer to 30, maybe a little more reason to think about it. Like in the original version, she's like, she's got years to go. She's like 22 or something. It doesn't matter. She doesn't like talk to Logan much. She doesn't sort of they talk, but she doesn't say much that sort of gets him thinking. And I thought that somebody that could sort of play it a little older, play it closer to being a red, being close to going black, like maybe having a year left, would be like Natalie Emmanuel from Game of Thrones, Miss Andy, the like Dany's right-hand woman.
I do like Natalie Emmanuel. Yeah, I mean, she's great. I would absolutely go with Natalie Emmanuel.
She's like 29 or 30.
Perfect. Yep. Yeah. And it's you're just going through the cast list of The Dark Crystal, huh?
I guess. Yeah,
so
that's
Natalie Emmanuel and Anya Taylor-Joy are both
in the new
Dark Crystal remake.
Well, to be fair, there's like 30 great people in the new Dark Crystal remake, so...
Yeah, I know I'm going to have to do that episode eventually, but I hated that movie.
I didn't see it until like 5 or 6 years ago, and it's just kind of like, okay, meh.
Fair.
For me, like the easiest one, the one that I could only like think of one person for, it was Francis Seven, and for that one, I had Zac Efron.
Interesting.
And I kind of thought of like his character in like Neighbors, where he's like this sort of not so bright frat boy. He's just sort of like dedicated to the system. He's in the system. He's happy to be living his life. He likes the way things are. He's like, you're my best friend and I love you so much. And he can also, like, Zac Efron, he seems like the sort of he could be that sort of sociopathic frat boy who kills people that need to die.
Oh, for sure. And if he's anything like the one experience I have with the real Zac Efron, he's constantly surrounded by a swarm of identical-looking men.
Which is the Sandmen.
Basically. My casting for Francis is actually fairly similar to that, but with an actor who's done a little bit more drama. Mm-hmm. The actor I have is Freddie Highmore from Bates and Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. He plays Norman Bates in the Bates TV show.
Okay, I haven't watched that show, but I know... yeah, okay.
He's got a baby face, but does intense really well. And then obviously was like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory in the new one. And but that said, I mean, Zac Efron's kind of a great choice. So what I would do is, given the option, is I would make Francis Zac Efron, I'd make Jessica Natalie Emmanuel, and then I'd make Logan Emmy Raver Lampman.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Okay, so then the next person that I have... I guess we could do Doc and Holly next. The next person I have on my list is Box, but let's do Doc and Holly.
Okay.
I mean, Holly's originally Farrah Fawcett,
yeah.
Which was an interesting choice. I just kind of, like, cast good actors. For Doc, I have Nicholas Hoult, he's Beast in the new X-Men movies. He's in Mad Max.
I literally thought of him too, but I went with Tom Holland because he looks a little younger and prettier.
If anything, Tom Holland's a little bit too young.
Well, but that's the point. Is like I expected a red, and he holds up his hand and it's red. He's like, "Oh, your work is excellent."
I mean, Nicholas Hoult looks young, but Tom Holland looks like a child.
Well, so did the guy in the original.
You think? I
Yeah,
thought the guy in the original... I thought everyone in this movie looked... Except for, like, the women. I thought all the dudes looked like they were 35.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, Francis and Logan, yeah, but not Doc. I thought... Honestly, I kind of felt stupid because I thought Doc and Tom Holland looked very much alike.
Oh, yeah, no. I thought Doc looked way older. And honestly, I don't know. I actually don't know how old Nicholas Hoult is. I should probably look that up.
I think he's like 27. He's like mid to late 20s. Because I was looking him up too.
He is 29.
Yep. All right.
But,
today's 29 is 1970s 20, so.
True. But who did you have for Holly?
For Holly, I kind of just went with a 1-for-1 and went with Ariana Grande.
You want to go with a famous person who isn't really known for their acting prowess?
Yeah.
To be fair, both movies I've seen Ariana... Oh, wait, Ariana Grande.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to one-up you.
Like Scream... I'm thinking of Scream Queens. She was a lot of fun in that.
And she was also in, like, some Nickelodeon show, right?
Probably. I didn't watch any of those, so...
Neither did I. I think she was on a show called Victorious. The person that I have... is the actress from It Follows called Micah Monroe.
Mm.
But if we're going to go with Ariana Grande, I'm going to stick with that idea, and let's go with Rihanna instead.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Let's do that. Let's go with Rihanna, if anything, just because it's another not white person. I'm willing to do Tom Holland for Doc, just because I'd love to see Tom Holland turn murderous and try to kill someone.
Yeah, that's the thing is, like, I don't know if in the remake that scene is going to go the same way. It has to be done better, that's for sure. Because the way that played out is just so... But, I mean, it gets back to the idea of everybody being pretty simple.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, oh, well, the people say I have to do the thing. I'm going to do the thing.
Okay, pay attention, Sandman.
Basically, yeah. And then just a person who happens to be gorgeous, who science made beautiful.
Yeah.
Sitting at the front desk.
I mean, like, the thing about Doc is that Doc is probably not really a Doc. Doc is just able to push the buttons on the machine that does the work.
Of course.
Yeah.
And if anything, I'd love it if the machine kind of doesn't work anymore. He's like, all right.
Oh, it's like, this
machines.
one couldn't come out right. Oh, jeez.
I put you in room C. Room C's been broken for 30 years. Like, he's just the dude who knows which robot's still functioning.
Yeah, this room hasn't worked in a long time, Sandman. The safety broke off.
Basically, yeah, let's do that.
This is the murder room.
Yeah. Okay, good. So Tom Holland and Rihanna. Let's go with Box.
They can both sing Umbrella.
The way I recast Box is I kind of assumed that however Box would be done was that it would be kind of like a CGI kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I went with just kind of the classic robot, John DiMaggio, because it's funny, and he's Bender.
I don't know about that, man.
Come on, tell me you don't want someone there to kill all humans.
That would take me out of the movie so hard.
Oh yeah, instantly. But I want it. I mean, basically...
Bite my shiny metal butt.
Kind of. We're living in a world where it's humans, and then all of a sudden a robot walks out. You're already taken out of the movie because you're like, wait, what's this?
Yeah.
And honestly, only the people like us who are already nerdy are going to be like, wait, what? It's a tribute to the
okay.
It's the thing that is
okay.
It's a tribute to the thing that came after that was inspired by the original.
He could do something and be like, get inside the suicide booth.
Kind of. Who did you have?
I honestly didn't have one for Box.
John DiMaggio it is.
John DiMaggio it is. That's great.
Yes.
That's great.
And we missed it. You cast the little kid.
Oh yeah, the little kid. I didn't cast the little girl. Like I didn't cast that. Like originally, I looked at the cast and I saw timid girl, and I thought that was the little girl. Timid girl is whoever it is that at the end like pets the old man. But for Billy and the timid girl, the Billy and the thieving girl, I was gonna mix them and make it Bella Ramsey from Game of Thrones, Lady Mormont.
Oh, great, love it.
Because she is awesome.
She is. So then let's talk. The only other character that I have left is the old man. Did you have anyone else on top of that?
Let's see. On top of the old man, the runners. For the first runner, the one who is sort of like that'll be a big action set piece. Is I wanted somebody sort of large and physical, and I said kill Liam Hemsworth.
All right, sure. We can kill Liam Hemsworth.
That'll be a fun action piece, and then for the second one, the one that he lets go. Probably couldn't get her, but, Kristen Bell, she'd be good at begging for her life.
All right, sure. That's fine. I got nothing against that.
Oh, and then we need to talk about the old man.
Yeah, who'd you have for the old man?
So, as a joke, I put down Nicolas Cage. But then, I don't know, like, Peter Ustinov was only like 50 when he did this. I don't, he might not bring the right energy to it, but I kind of want to put Harrison Ford.
Interesting.
Because I kind of feel like as much as this old man needs to be he needs to come off as sort of harmless and affable, he also needs to be somebody that you can see survived.
Yeah. Can you see Harrison Ford ever playing someone who is low status? Sorry, I'm using an improv term. Do you know there's a concept of high status characters versus low status characters?
Oh, just sort of stepping into this part. Yeah, well,
like a high status character is the person who kind of like runs the room. Like even if you're doing like an upstairs downstairs thing, like the butler might be the most high status person there.
Yeah, no, I suppose this wouldn't really be a good use of his energy. The
person that I have is an actor who, I mean, you take a look at this guy and he's suave as hell, but like he's good at playing crazy. Mm-hmm. And he's good at like he can get things done, but he's also absolutely a character actor, because that's what you kind of want for this. You want an old person, you need a character actor. And I just think it's funny that I just did Office Space because my casting for the old man is Stephen Root. Stephen Root he was recently in Get Out, but he was the dude in Office Space who had the red stapler.
Oh. Aw, my cats. They have 3 names.
Yeah.
Have you seen my cat? All right. Yeah, that's good.
All right, cool.
I like that guy.
He's awesome. And he's been in so many interesting and cool things, and he's just a classically good comedic actor. Mm-hmm. But, like, he's just really good at just hitting those characters. And so, I don't know, I like him. Which brings us to our writers and our directors.
Okay.
Did you do separate writer-director, or did you do a writer-director?
I did them separately.
Okay. Let's talk about writer first.
Okay.
So, for my writers, I actually had a writing team.
Okay.
I had Ben Blacker and Ben Acker. They did a podcast called The Thrilling Adventure Hour.
Yes, The Thrilling Adventure Hour, yeah.
They're no stranger to sci-fi, high sci-fi, and they're no stranger to taking something and making it funny. Mm-hmm. They also did Supernatural, and Ben Blacker recently is doing like a comic book series about witches, and it's also about female empowerment. And considering we have a movie that's not very woke, maybe bring a little bit more wokenness to the project. So that's why I picked Acker and Blacker.
Okay, I like them. I definitely like them. I love The Thrilling Adventure Hour. My writer is Eric Heiserer. He's the guy who did the adaptation of Arrival and won the Oscar for that one. And I really, he has also done a bunch of horror movies, a bunch of pieces like that. But the work on Arrival I thought was really good. I think he put a lot of, I haven't read the original story that Arrival is based on, but I feel like that was a really, really good, affecting movie with there was a lot of sort of depth there and nuance, and I think maybe he could take the original novel, the original work, and be able to sort of put a lot into it.
Okay, cool. Tell me who you have as your director.
I went with Edgar Wright because I thought that he's the sort of person who can really I thought he could really load the screen up with a lot of just sort of a lot of what was going on, a lot of planning, sort of build the depth in the world and help sort of show what's going on, and also that he'd be really good at the action set pieces. I thought we'd be able to get some good runs out of this. I hope that like there's the bit like in the middle of the movie where they're sort of like walking around in the base, and like you see on the computer screen like sort of like, oh, there's another runner, and you just see like the little zap on their computer screen. And I was like, for our purposes, we could sort of see like a sort of cut of more of what's actually going on. But I thought Edgar Wright is very precise and able to sort of put a lot on screen and make a lot happen, and make it all sort of come together in a really neat way.
Edgar Wright is certainly a very popular choice for director on this podcast.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. He's a popular choice because he's very good.
Yeah.
I'm actually going with someone else who's come up a few times, but I think he's kind of right for taking a story, kind of nailing down the core concepts of the original, and then exploiting that to its best effect. Mm-hmm. And he's also very familiar with very large franchise sci-fi. And so I kind of like the idea of, I want someone who won't be too precious with the original world, which obviously Edgar Wright wouldn't be either.
No.
And we picked people who are very good at being writer-directors, but we both want them to kind of just be the writer. I'm sorry, just the director.
Yeah,
but
yeah. I think Rian Johnson would definitely be a good thing there. I don't think anyone is going to be too precious with Logan's run. I don't think we have to worry about that.
That's probably true. Okay, so with that in mind, let's pick Acker and Blacker as our writers, and then let's go with Edgar Wright for our director.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, and I believe that'll do it. So let me take you through
everyone.
Our cast. So, for Logan's run, we have Logan being played by Emmy Raver-Lampman. We have Jessica to be played by Natalie Emmanuel. Francis will be Zac Efron. Doc will be Tom Holland. Holly will be Rihanna. The two runners will be Liam Hemsworth and Kristen Bell. Box will be played by John DiMaggio. Billy will be Bella Ramsey. Old Man will be Stephen Root. Our writers are Ben Acker and Ben Blacker, with our director as Edgar Wright. So, Chris, would you watch this movie?
Hell yeah, I would.
All right.
I would run to that theater. Runner.
Don't run. No, you're going to get... Zap. All right, awesome. Well, cool. Thank you very much for helping me recreate this.
That was a lot of fun. I was really happy to help you.
Yeah, so Chris, tell the audience about all of the different things that you do and where they can find you on the internet.
Oh my goodness, you can find me in so many places on the internet, and most of them you should find me at. I am largely on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Minute. That podcast can be found in iTunes and wherever else you get your podcasts, except for the Alexa version of podcasts. I don't think it's in that for some reason, whatever that is. Let's see. On all the dueling genre family of podcasts, I've guested on all of that stuff. That's good. I am one of the I'm one of the cast members on our audio drama production of Geek by Night. We've won some awards. It's pretty cool. You should check it out. It's a lot of fun. About a bunch of comic book geeks who actually get their powers and, well, have to live life with superpowers. Yeah, that's largely where I am on the internet. And
if people want to follow you on Twitter or Instagram?
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Twitter, I am Chris O'Connor IV at Chris O'Connor IV. It's my full name with the 4 at the end because I'm the fourth one. ChrisOconnoriv. Derp. I'm on the Twitter. Yeah, I tweet.
All right, good. Love it. Awesome. If you want to follow the show, it's at Ideal Remake on Twitter, at Ideal Remake on Instagram. You should follow us on Facebook.
Yeah!
Which is Ideal Remake Podcast or Ideal Remake, and all of those are there.
Get in there and tell us we did a terrible job.
I mean, you'll be wrong, but you can tell us. If you want to follow me, I'm at Sam Gasch, SamGasch on Twitter. And if you want to do the podcast one favor this week, please go out and tell one person you know about the show. I mean, if you want to leave us a review or something, that would be amazing. But as far as I'm concerned, I'll be happy if you just tell someone about the show.
I mean, I told like 5 today.
And that's why you're my hero. You'd never put me to sleep, would you? No. That's why it's okay. We're gonna make it out. We're gonna make it to Sanctuary. We
Rocket
have to.
guns! Pew, 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 pew!
And then we just melt.
Oh, good times.
And then like that weird robot comes and sprays us with foam and we literally melt. It was so weird. Anyway. Chris,
it's a whole thing. You had to be there.
Yeah, honestly. Thank you so much for being a guest on this episode, and thank you for wanting to talk about this movie.
It has been my pleasure. I have had a great time. Thank you for having me.
All right. And so now we need a quote from the movie to send us out. And honestly, I think there could be no better game that you can get from this episode than just take some time and come up with 3 names for your cat. All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Run, runner!
That's it. That's what it is.